It's 6:03. We'll get the meeting called to order. Sorry for a slight delay. We were just working through some technical difficulty there, but I think we're on our way now. We will be starting with our usual administrative
recording in progress.
Oh, no, I'm sorry. Meeting with guests, which we've been doing for the budgeting season, kind of help folks work through that. First on the list is the Development Review Board. I'm not seeing, was Willa gonna attend by Zoom?
I'm not sure. I didn't.
Just got the.
We just have, yeah.
That might be all we have, yeah.
Well, maybe we just go in the order of some of the guests that we have.
Sure.
And work through that. We're kind of respectful of their time, and if that makes sense.
We like that.
All right. So we've got Sandra and Betsy. Sandra, do you want to talk about the delinquent tax collection first? Oh, you're on mute still. Hold on.
Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
All good. Can you hear us?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, good. I think we're good to go.
So I've not asked for an increase in the delinquent tax stipend for FY27. I think that stipend is fine for the work involved. The statute has changed and has had a recent tweak, but I don't really see that as adding any extra work. The delinquencies are fairly small. We have roughly $15,000 outstanding from last year. One of those folks is waiting for a property to sell. And the others, we may actually see, I may be coming to the select board in the next few months to have them motion those parcels for collections, but we'll wait and see. I'm going to be drafting a letter to the 2024 delinquent list to tell them if they do not pay their 2024 taxes in full and they have not paid their 2025 taxes, according to the statute, they are subject to collections actions, and that should get at least the 2024 money in. These are pretty much the usual characters at the very end of the year like this. I really do think it's all collectible. But having said that, I think that we are seeing fairly consistent results over time, if not in the amount of delinquency outstanding, but in the proportion of collected amounts to delinquent amounts. And I'm pretty satisfied. I think that we're doing very well as a town in collecting our taxes on time, and also the delinquent tax base.
Yeah, agreed. I'm crossing fingers that it stays that way.
Yeah.
For sure. As things kind of get pinched further and further. And thanks for the consideration to keeping the rate low, and I'm sure everybody on the board and staff are keeping the rate even with last year for the stipend. I think I also saw in your memo to keep an eye out for delinquent tax collector trainings, which I think would be pretty easy for us to accommodate. We generally have a running training and education budget for staff and town officials that I don't think we generally use that up anyway. So revisit that, and then I think, just trying to think, how to track requests for education, as they come up, so that we just have a running list. I'm not, admittedly, not a great, not great at keeping track of all of the different VLTC, programs that are available or training opportunities, but if we had put together an office list of folks who are looking for a particular type of training, I know
Whatever
staff is.
Like, so those I
Yeah.
always forward that training opportunity to the appropriate
Okay.
official or board or committee or commission, always.
Okay, then we won't overcomplicate it and just keep Barbara doing what Barbara does.
I appreciate that.
Um, does anyone else have any other questions for Sandra relative to delinquent tax collection?
No, just appreciation.
Well,
Yeah.
I'm very sincere when I say that I feel I really enjoy serving the town of Calais. And I appreciate the opportunity to do so. It's a great staff and board to work with, and yeah, I'm glad to be here and do what I do.
Well, thank you, Sandra. That feeling is certainly mutual, and I think I'd add that I think for this particular role, the approach and rapport that you bring to the role is to our benefit as well, and having somebody who's that role being filled by somebody that is a consistent presence is also likely serves us pretty well too. So thank you very much for that.
Makes a difference.
Makes a difference.
Thank you. All right, we're good. Whoops.
Oh, happy, uh-oh.
You went away.
I think hopefully it was just the video doing it.
Yes, I can still hear you. There you are.
That was close. Well, thanks, Sandra. We appreciate it. We'll get this worked into the budget and certainly circle back if you have any other questions or
All right.
concerns. Thank you. Have a good
Thank you
night.
very much. Have a nice night.
Bye, Sandra.
Bye.
All right. And we have Lister zoning administrator and was Betsy attending for a later agenda item?
I don't know.
No, you'll need to ask her what.
Okay. We can, well, let's move through some of the other items that we have on there. So I guess at this point we can run through the development review board and just try to take them up in order, if that makes sense to everybody else. So everybody had the opportunity to review the development review board email and request that was circulated and posted to the shared drive from Willa. Seems
And that's the same as last year also.
it is the same as last year. The DRB had met. They're requesting $645, $300 for the recording secretary position, and $345 for training opportunities. Both of which I think are very reasonable and sounds good. So I imagine that unless we have any other questions or need for dialogue, then I'd say that we work on adopting those as requested and add them to the spreadsheet. Was there anything else in the email that required any attention? I don't believe so. Great. So the next one is the zoning administrator and the listers, which generally we kind of look at together. So the proposed zoning administrator FY 2027 budget for the ZA stipend was $5,000, assistant ZA stipend $500, and then general expenses, which is mostly expenses incurred for posting the permit notices, is $600 for a total of $6,100, which I believe was flat from last year. Is that right?
It was 5,500, 400. There's PRB combined in there. No, it looks like the same. Maybe 600 is, last year it was 500.
For,
Oh, no, I'm sorry, I'm looking at FY '25. I'm wrong. Proposed budget.
Well, it's certainly not an increase for the zoning administrator stipend,
No,
and
they increased it last year, remember?
Yeah.
Up to the $100 a month or something.
yeah, I think, and largely against the protest of the zoning administrator, but
Jan's
you know,
insistence.
I think that that's wise, and I still think that we're probably trending on the low side. We
Yeah.
need to get ready.
That's in the category of we should be making space for that for paying outside of town, you know, not a volunteer. Yeah.
You know, I guess given the current environment and John's willingness to continue to serve, I don't see a need for that.
On the other side, when we look at the lister, they did increase the lister
Yeah.
amount, and I think that's a combination of a small raise and they anticipate more hearings next year.
Yeah.
So, just, I don't know if this is accurate, but I'm looking at the budget, proposed budget for FY '26, and the stipend is 6,000 in that,
Yeah, I just saw that too.
6,000.
with 500 for a zoning.
No, it looks like that was taken out.
Yeah. I'm just looking at, so it was 6,000 and then 0 for the zoning
Did we
assistant.
not have an assistant? This is town report.
Oh, interesting.
I don't know if that's accurate to look back at that.
I don't think he looked at closely enough. I don't think we should go backwards.
Right.
And
Right.
We don't have an assistant. I mean, I'm not opposed to an assistant, but I don't know if they have anyone in mind. I've heard no discussion of bringing the assistant back. I think it would be a good idea for, you know, redundancy and.
Seems like it would be good to keep it at 6,000 and keep the 500 in there as a
Okay.
fingers crossed.
Yeah, and we have something to offer somebody.
Yeah.
We could-
Right.
So I could do that and ask them to be thinking about who would be the logical.
And then just to keep it that, it was 900 for zoning expenses in FY '26, according to the town report.
So it'd make
So
sense
it
to
was a
keep it at
total of
9.
7,545.
Well, This
But that includes
is DRB numbers, so you have to
Oh, I
minus the
see. Okay.
645.
But yeah, it was 900 where he has 600 for expenses.
So it was
Which I don't
16
know what the actual was this year. Maybe 600 is more realistic,
Yeah.
but.
I can look that up and find that out, but it sounds like unless it was dramatically lower, we should probably keep that even, at least for now.
Yeah, I
Okay.
think so.
And include the assistant zoning
Yeah.
administrator, okay,
Yeah, 6,000, yeah, same numbers as last year, plus the 500 for the assistant.
right.
Yeah,
Okay.
I think so.
I wonder if that was in anticipation of the zoning regulation change that came the year before that and the need for potentially more
That's possible.
signage or something,
Right.
and then that just didn't come to fruition, so.
Right, that could be.
Either way, I guess, I'm more comfortable keeping the ZA stipend flat and realizing that as, and then if we wanted to accept the decrease in the
Yeah.
general expenses, then I think that's a fair.
At least at this stage.
Sure. So back to the listers proposed 2027 budget, they've got listers' wages at $18,000, which is is that total?
Yeah,
Yeah.
which is 2,000 above this year.
Yeah, and I think I went over this part with John this morning, and I think they were below 13 in actual for this last year, so.
Did they happen to, did he mention whether or not the tax map updating, that's going to be contracted services for updating the tax map?
I
Or
believe
just
so.
extra
Is that
hours?
what do you mean by tax map? Is that the Access GIS map?
The interactive map is the next one. down.
Yeah,
Tax map updating.
That's Christine Chamberlain, isn't it?
Oh, okay. So when they update boundaries,
Right.
yeah. That's a fairly consistent expense, I believe.
Yeah, Christine's been doing it with us for years and years and years.
And
They're
was that the
asking
same last
100
year?
above last year.
How much
It's
is
just 100.
100 above, makes sense.
education and training, I think makes sense to leave that in there.
How many listers are there?
3.
3. Yeah.
Software license, that's for the listers' computers. Do we only,
Yeah.
they each have their own laptop, or they share one when they come in? I can't remember.
They have a desktop that they
Share.
share. And they have, I assume a portion of their network licenses, I don't know what else they have. They have a couple other things that I'm not so familiar with, but 300 seems pretty reasonable to me.
Yeah. I think we just need to make sure that we're monitoring which licenses, relative to our meeting last week with RV Tech and where licenses are. You know, they're just, I think it makes sense for the listers to be sharing one desktop where they're doing most of their work together anyway. So, and one of them is the zoning administrator, so that desktop could share that function, I guess, as we look at replacing.
John has a separate zoning desktop that we got a couple of years ago, because he has some really big programs that he has to load on there with a lot of memory. So we got him a separate zoning desktop 2 years ago.
Actually, last year it's a gaming computer.
Yeah.
Visuals.
I mean, it makes sense. I just think that they're going to be looking at very similar things. So I think as we look at it like a IT retention stuff, because he also added a heftier or like more capable laptop, I think, in the last year. So
That's what I'm thinking.
it makes more sense to me to have a zoning administrator laptop and then a heavy workstation for zoning administrator and listers.
Right.
As like a workstation, so the zoning administrator is going to be, they can have separate user IDs if they need separate accesses, but they're going to need pretty similar specifications, and it doesn't seem like there would be a conflict in usage anyway.
I'll talk to him about that.
Yeah.
That could be a
So
future
the
plan.
miscellaneous lister expenses is 500.
Yeah, and
and-
that's a new item.
Well, there was lister expense for 2,300 in FY26. So I'm just wondering, was
Oh, is
there
that
like
what
a
that is?
planned
That would
large?
have been for the reappraisal.
Okay.
I'm guessing.
Yeah.
Because it was down to 150 the prior year.
Yeah.
Can we earmark that $300 for the software? Because it seems like we should just roll that into
The office, general office.
general office.
That'd be fine with me.
Yeah, I mean, we don't list that as a line item for really any of the other budgets, I don't think, that they're using.
It's such a small amount.
It's such a small amount.
I'll make a note of that.
Do we lose video and we know that, or?
Keep happening. And audio.
And audio? Oh, that was.
Oh, no.
Yeah,
All righty.
it's a little squirrely tonight.
Barbara, your new official role for this meeting is going to be to continue to watch that auto selecting.
We've had some issues with the owl and read when you have to, when you have
An update.
restart and update. Anyway. So it could be that.
Yeah.
So do we need any more conversation about the lister's budget?
I don't think so.
Most of that's pretty straightforward. Great, thank you, everyone. The 2026 medical insurance premiums, Kari, that was included in your memo, is that right?
Yeah, and then the one-page summaries of the Blue Cross and MVP are in the folder. So the headline is that the renewal rate for our current coverage is an increase of only 1.1%, which is pretty amazing.
Kind of amazing, yeah.
The union may well propose something else. We'll find out next week, I guess, but that's good news, and it might be the last time for a while, right? We see something that reasonable. We'll take it.
Yeah. I think that makes sense. I was thinking a little bit about the union's feedback. It seems like a tough environment for them to be lobbying for
Yeah, we'll
a change
see.
in plans, but I guess we'll just kind of see. And I wonder whether or not adding options on there with different degrees of cash buyout to incentivize buying a different plan, but maybe that doesn't help us anything.
Oh, yeah.
We can talk about that within the discussions with the union, right?
Yeah, I assume they'll bring it up, and if they care about it, we can talk about it. But Jordan's referring to, there have been some bumps in the road in terms of service with MVP, and we do have one employee this year who has used up their entire HRA, so now they're in the copay situation where MVP pays 70%, the employee pays 30%, and there's like a $5,000 employee exposure there, and I don't think it happened last year, just because circumstances were different, but, so that's why if you looked at the breakdown, there are these select gold plans
Yeah.
that where the max out of pocket is the same as the deductible. I wouldn't be shocked if they asked for that plan,
Okay.
but we'll talk about it.
Okay. And I guess we've got a brief discussion of next steps for the budget.
Yeah, so next meeting in 3 weeks, we'll have the library, the emergency management committee, planning commission, and swim committee, so that'll be a full one, a lot of guests.
Okay.
Great.
All right, well, thank you. Everybody's confirmed from those groups for
Yeah,
that
but
meeting?
but they were tonight too, so I don't know where the other three groups who were here, I don't know where they are, but they were all booked and confirmed.
No, I know Willa had mentioned that maybe she wasn't going to be able to, I thought, and then.
Yeah, John and the listers said that they didn't think they needed to be here tonight, that things were not different enough so.
Well,
But I'll
at least
give
they
them-
got their information on time.
Yeah.
So. Very good. Well, thank you, and thanks, Barbara, for your efforts to keep folks on schedule. It's greatly appreciated. So next, we have a period of public comment for up to 15 minutes if needed to raise any issues that might be, or speak to anything that's not on the agenda. We don't have any present here. I guess I'll turn to Betsy and see if maybe that was an expectation. Maybe not. If so, Betsy, you're on mute. Okay. Well, not, yes.
There was a resignation from the Trails Committee that was on the agenda, wasn't there?
Yes.
Yeah, it's in the next item.
Yeah, we haven't done the,
Oh, that's
The administrative.
Okay, I'm sorry, I don't have an agenda in front of me, sorry, thank you.
That's okay.
We keep shuffling the agenda. What? Keeping ourselves awake.
What are you talking about? All right, well, we'll roll into the administrative items.
Can I just, excuse me, can I just ask one question?
Yes.
About Curtis Pond Dam.
Sure.
And before the dam was repaired, of course, the face of the dam always leaked. So there was always water coming through it. Now no water's coming through it, and it's affecting people downstream. Are there plans to open and let some people downstream have some more water? Or what's the deal with that, do you think?
It's a good question. The stream has never in my life been dry because there's always been leakage through the dam. The state required that we maintain flow throughout construction, but then had no position on whether or not we maintain flow post-construction. We have the valve, we have the ability, but of course any water that goes out lowers the pond below, where it already is at historic lows. I think if there were arguments to be made to do so, we could.
I don't know, I just thought I was curious that,
Yeah,
How dry is it downstream? Is
It's
the
dry.
stream just totally dried up?
there's a trickle. There's a
water's coming from other sources into the stream, but it's certainly not coming through from Curtis Pond anymore.
It's not.
yeah.
and how does that impact people downstream exactly? Does that impact their well or spring or something like that?
I don't know, I'm just bringing it up.
Okay.
It's just, it's one of those,
One of the drought issues.
yeah. I just don't know who's responsible for making those decisions and deciding when water's to be released or not.
Right.
It's sort of a new issue for us, isn't
It
it?
is a new issue.
I would say it's this body, but it does, I think it raises a pretty interesting point, and probably something that could be easily, put into, like a management policy that is related to like the maintenance of the valve and everything else.
And the valve is very easily adjusted, and it can be a trickle. I mean, you can open it just so it's got a very, very light flow. We are supposed to open the valve twice a year.
Cycle it.
Just to keep it moving. And this spring, it was already so dry. We opened it a little bit and then closed it right away because we didn't want a lot of water to go through. But we haven't opened it a whole lot. We haven't opened it any since then.
Who would be, so I guess who would be an authority on that? I wonder if it would be, there are a couple of questions. One would be like, what body would have kind of reasonable perspective and authority for saying like what a normal amount of water for like movement over or through a dam like that would be like healthy for the downstream segment, but also I guess B, probably be a Du Bois and King question, but what would be the disadvantages from like an infrastructure perspective of like having a valve partially opened at a particular amount, and then it seems like we would want to find a percentage of like a certain flow rate that wants to be maintained relative to water levels.
Which we have in the specs. I don't remember off the top of my head, but there were very specific specs during construction that Fish and Wildlife wanted to see a specific flow rate into the stream maintained throughout construction.
Yeah.
And so there's ecological interests,
Yeah.
which I'm surprised the state doesn't have an opinion
Right, I know.
Very surprised.
about that whole category of interests.
Yeah.
So, and then there's impact on residents, which I don't really understand, but it seems like there's some learning we could do there. There's maintenance, there's safety. I don't think there's really a safety consideration here. There's so much.
Right, and then.
And around, and residents around the pond.
Right, exactly.
And,
The
well,
benefit
yes.
downstream, what's the impact upstream?
Right. And
Ecologically and,
to really discuss the trade-offs, I think we need more information.
Yeah.
I can work on this, and I think a policy is a good idea, so there must be one somewhere that we could take a look at, but
yeah.
let me talk to a couple people.
Yeah, I think the bigger, one of the big ones is like what kind of impacts keeping a steady flow going through the valve could have. Like, does that, could that introduce like, sediment or some sort of degradation of the valve mechanism if it is kept partially open for extended periods of time versus just it being closed by default all the time?
Right.
But it would seem like it'd be nice if there's just like a set point that it could be left and start with ecological benefits and then it's just kind of upstream versus downstream, that it's somewhat of a normal flow.
And we can think through that too, like how many people are we talking about? What are the impacts exactly?
And I know, like, they, at least for short terms, weren't concerned about that, because there was a period of time in the spring, or maybe last fall, that we were using it to keep the water level just below the spillways for the stonework. And so we just sort of check it every day and open and close it minuscule amounts to maintain flow and keep the water level where it was.
It's an interesting question.
Good question, Bill. Thank you very much as a member of the public.
I should put my other hat on again now.
All right, rolling into the administrative items. We've got the approval of the September 22nd meeting minutes, which were posted to the shared drive in draft form. Has everybody had an opportunity to review those?
Yes.
Anybody have any questions about them or comments?
I just had a quick question about the initial discussion with James on emergency management and his suggestion that we add people to be authorized to request help. Did we not decide that we were going to do that? Did we not add some names to the system at the meeting? Or did we just say we're going to think about it? I could not remember. I thought someone here might be able to.
I thought there was discussion about somebody, like, that it was a, I don't know how to paraphrase without going back, that it, like, along the lines of somebody from the select board, but like, and then CAR was obvious, but it was going to be discussed and then confirmed just because of the...
Right, I think I volunteered since in the public location.
Glad you remember that.
But we sort of left it if we deem we need another person.
Okay.
That would make sense. But I don't think we didn't make a decision.
There wasn't like a firm...
Okay.
No.
I don't think he was
Well,
necessarily
should we
asking
flag
for
it as
Right.
a decision we should make then?
Yeah, because I think
Yeah,
he
I'll bring that up
said...
You can ask it.
Yeah.
All
Yeah.
Thanks. So the minutes are correct. I have no suggestions. Thank you.
Can I get a motion to approve the minutes as posted?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
I will abstain. I wasn't here.
We missed you.
Thank you, Bill. And vote to approve the board orders also posted to the shared drive. Everybody hopefully had a chance to review those. Are there any questions about the board orders? If not, can I get a motion to approve and sign the board orders?
So moved.
All in favor?
Second.
Oh, sorry. Thank you, Barbara. All in favor?
That must have been a fun check keeping, Curry.
It's always a little nerve-wracking.
I bet.
And, yeah, anyway.
No, I appreciate you providing that one. I mean, that makes
Some
good practice.
Some payments you double check and some you like quadruple check.
Did you just buy a house?
So now we've got some dialogue and approvals related to some road work. We've got the county road shoulder work, and we did get a quote that came in
Just this afternoon.
just this afternoon, and did everybody get a chance to see that?
Where was that?
It came in by email.
Yeah, it's on the email.
So I guess, for quick context on that, Pike Industries was doing the paving job on County Road, which is fantastic. Boy,
Oh, I
what
see
a
it.
pleasure.
Yes.
Tell me about
And super happy that they stayed on budget. They were able to actually come in under budget relative to the extra work that we had approved for trying to deal with some of the most problematic areas in the northbound lane on the south segment of the county road, and feeling a lot better about going into winter in the next couple of years with the condition, even with that kind of patchwork done. I think
It'll be interesting to see how the patch holds up.
I don't know, yeah, it does.
there are significant bumps, which was one of my concerns with like any kind of patchwork like that. They did a great job leveling that stuff
And they did
out.
so much of it on the north, so
Yeah.
there would be less breaks. I thought they were,
Yeah, I was surprised at how much they were able to get done on that
Yeah.
northbound lane.
You just gotta make sure that we crack seal next year. We have.
Absolutely.
Make it-
Yeah.
yeah, that'll be the best use of crack seal expense.
Yeah.
Those first years, I think.
So the lingering concern, and last bit of work was something that we originally didn't include in the spec, which was the self-perform, the shoulder work, and then realizing that we're kind of late in the season and our road crew has plenty of stuff to do and is probably not equipped to do that as efficiently. It would be handwork. We asked them to provide a quote for filling the shoulders relative to the pave work. That quote was $16,000 and change. I'm guessing for materials and mobilization.
Yeah, so they do have a machine specifically for this that
Yeah.
angles it and places it at whatever width you specify. So there's no question that they can do it more efficiently. What I don't know, and I haven't had a chance to talk with them, is it specifies 200 tons, but I don't know what distance that's covering. We've got 1.5 miles for sure that we want both sides, although not the entire amount. It's
Right, there's places it's really bad and places it doesn't really
It doesn't need
much.
anything. So I'd like to understand if that 200 tons includes
I guess I would also
all of it, or?
say that, like, there are also probably places where it's not adjacent to the paving, where it's just eroded or been pushed away. And so if they're bringing in equipment, it would seem worth considering doing
The 2
it,
miles.
doing the whole stretch wherever it's needed. If it's obviously not needed, then don't. But like, how much more material would we be talking if there are areas
Yeah.
of road that weren't patched or weren't
Right.
needed? Like, we ought to do that, and that's going to reinforce the shoulder of what's left there.
Right, that I do understand is that it's both a safety issue
Yeah.
for users and it will protect our investment.
Yep. Does it also include the driveway aprons as well?
I don't know that.
Because I know there was one down there that got pretty broken up from, trucks going in and out of it. It was, it had broken at the driveway and was starting to break into the county road itself. And by having the shoulder work done at the apron, it protects it from happening again. I don't know.
I could find that.
I doubt that they'd end up going down the curb cuts, but they would certainly reinforce whatever's the standard width, like into the radius. I think in that one particular it's annoying that I think that was relative to heavy equipment coming in and out of that driveway, and we already had kind of a crummy road, and so it's kind of like it's kind of the landowner's responsibility to not damage the road, but we had a crummy one. But I think there might be worth an effort to certain driveways that.
I feel like everyone knows what you're talking about, and I don't.
Oh, yeah, there's a driveway on the county road that dips pretty either driveway work or something like that. There were some heavy trucks that came in and out, or some sort of equipment that came out, and it like basically just ripped apart the asphalt on that.
The new work?
No,
Okay.
it was old work,
Okay.
and it was significantly repaired.
Okay.
And I think that that's great, but I think folks should understand that now that there's new curb cuts that have been repaired, or curb cuts that have been repaired, the expectation is that if there's damage like that again, that they're gonna be on the hook if it is coming into the roadway. Our curb cut ordinance, existing curb cut ordinance would, says as much.
Okay.
So I don't know how to tactfully raise that
Friendly
issue,
letter.
but yeah, just say, so happy that the road is done, but
Well, it might be a question for Pike if they were planning on doing it anyway. Then it kind of absolves us from having to do that letter. It'd be nice to know what their plan was.
Yeah, I agree. I can ask them about that. And the last thing I want to find out is, because this is so much more than I was expecting, but can we add this amount to the grant that was provided for this work? So we're already asking for additional monies for the Kent Hill grant.
Yeah.
So I know that that's a possibility. It just depends on did they spend their full allocation for the state for the year or not.
Yeah.
I'd love to ask for, because by rights, we should have included this.
Right.
I mean, it's part of the project.
Right.
I thought we had maxed it out. I thought it was up to like a 200,000.
Yeah, I think you might be right about that, yeah. That's right.
So we ended up just, yeah.
Yeah, you are right.
Yeah.
Well, I guess let's table that, I guess, decision
It's
until,
still worth asking the question. No? I mean, if
Well-
there's other grant funds,
Like a different grant, maybe.
I don't know.
Maybe.
It's worth
I'll
asking.
think about it, but, yeah, why don't we, I think there's time, because this is not paving, this is gravel, they can do this in November. So why don't I come back to you in 3 weeks?
okay. And we've got.
The quote is valid for 7 days, as I read it.
I'm not concerned about that.
I'm just thinking, okay, you're not concerned.
I'll call them tomorrow.
Okay, awesome.
And then we've got a consideration of a $3,000 transfer to the cemetery fund.
Yeah, so if you saw my explanation, this goes actually back to what last meeting, I think I talked about the budget. There's something off in this budget, and what it is the article we voted on at town meeting for the cemetery commission was only 46,000 and change. What was in the budget, what was requested was 49,000. So we did not raise that $3,000 in taxes. That's not part of the tax rate. But I feel obligated to provide that to the cemetery commission. They asked for it in good faith, and it was, what they asked for was approved. So they thought,
Well,
So
what
that would
they
be-
asked for was approved or not? If
well,
the voters didn't approve it,
in a way it was approved because the whole budget,
It's in
the
the
entire
budget.
budget was approved.
Yeah.
But the article is different. So, but it's $3,000 that we have it in the general fund, and I think it's what we should do. And we artificially lowered the tax rate is what we did.
The cemetery commission didn't say anything about that when the article, when the warning and when town meeting happened?
No. So I should make a habit of having them review and sign off on the warning.
Yeah.
I just am not sure well,
Sorry.
we have money sitting around to move over.
From the general fund, yeah, well, we do. We have, the audited general fund balance will be in excess of our policy, which is already, was 45% of the operating budget. That was that policy that was adopted in the last couple months. So we can certainly handle 3,000. I think it's the right thing to do.
Any other questions or concerns about that? I think that makes sense to do. If we didn't approve it, I think it would open the door for kind of trying to figure out what we do with it for funds that were potentially appropriated that weren't allocated, right? Because the budget was approved, right? It would get messier.
It could get messy. The Cemetery Commission finished last fiscal year with about $500. They don't have, much of a balance.
Yeah, they're very judicious.
So can I have a motion or call for a motion to approve the transfer of $3,000 from the general fund to the cemetery fund to compensate for the incongruity between the approved town budget and then the article that was listed in the town warning?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And then we have a resignation to consider. So Patrick Donnelly has submitted a resignation from the Trails Committee.
He's in Dublin.
He's in Dublin. He's enjoying different trails. I'll make a statement thanking Patrick for his service to the Trails Committee and wish him the best of luck on his Dublin adventures. And that'll open up a Trails Committee spot or vacancy, is that right, Barbara? And we'll add that to the list of calls that are going to go out.
Yeah, I'm looking to send out a recruitment notice tomorrow for a lot of open positions we currently have.
Okay, fantastic. So can I get a motion to accept Patrick Donnelly's resignation from the Trails Committee?
So moved.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. All right. Still same folks online. And next up is the town hall management conversation. And Cliff is right on time, and we're right on time. Let's just keep everything on time. Good things happen. Things happen. So thanks for attending, Cliff. Jamie and Barbara have been having ongoing conversations with the Friends of Calais as we've been kind of working through some dialogue relative to renewing the contract and just kind of, or the agreement between the Friends and the town. And as we've been planning agendas and figuring out when to fit in various conversations and give everybody the opportunity to like provide input in a clear way, we thought it would make the most sense to just put it on the select board agenda so that we could solicit select board member feedback in an efficient manner and an open meeting. And go through the documents, and then that I think keeps everything on the transparent kind of up, and then we can assign, or can kind of continue on with like having somebody kind of liaise on behalf of the select board as we work through revisions that that the Friends will also like to have input on as well. So certainly not planning on making any final decisions about these inputs, but that was really the intent of just getting it on the agenda tonight. So hopefully that was clear to you. Didn't catch anybody off guard, or doesn't catch anybody off guard. So with that, the versions of the existing agreement between the town and the Calais Town Hall and the Friends was circulated along with bylaws for the Friends of Calais Town Hall. Has everybody had chance to review that? I want to try to keep like input as efficient as possible, and now that Jamie is here, are you feel like you're in a comfortable position to kind of receive that input, or maybe we'll try to collect it all if there's a bunch of it, maybe that from individual select board members, we'll just ask to have you send that to Jamie, or whoever we determine the liaison is, so that that can then be worked on as like in draft form. Is that about right? Does that sound fair?
Yep.
So with that, I think it makes the most sense to start with, I don't know. Now I'm waffling. Sorry, Cliff, I haven't had a lot of sleep tonight. I was traveling yesterday.
Okay, there's a lot of that going around.
Yes.
Very, very foggy.
If I can, this might be a good use of the go-around, where you just ask a select board member to say, what are your top things that you would suggest, and then.
Yeah, I want to handle the bylaws, I guess, and the agreement a little bit, if we need to, just try to get feedback on either of them, one before the other, so that we're not kind of cross-pollinating between feedback on documents. But I think maybe let's start with the bylaws, because I think that's like the 30,000 foot item, and may not have as much commentary on. So with that, were folks able to review the bylaws that were circulated? And does anybody have any notes on that? I have a handful. We can just kind of go through in order. For me, the naming of the organization and purpose seemed pretty consistent and clear, as well as the fiscal year. That's what it is. So my notes don't really kick in until the annual meeting element. And with that, I think having the annual meeting on there is obviously important, and a good one. I was just kind of curious about the notice that goes out to the officers and directors, and whether or not it would be prudent to add the select board to that, or
I think it should. We're responsible for the whole.
yeah.
You know.
So the bylaws already include the ex officio appointee of the select board as a member of the board of directors, right? Voting.
Jumping ahead, sir.
I know. So I'm just questioning whether or not we would, does that notice need to be the entire select board, or do we need, or are we willing to presume?
I think so.
Okay.
Yeah.
And, okay, so we'll table the rest of that. The other element, I guess, is do you guys currently run the meetings by Robert's rules, or is that just kind of a default?
That's more or less a default. We do try to adhere to those rules, but it's a loose interpretation, shall we say?
Yeah. So I guess.
I'm sure you relate to is other committees kind of follow the same pattern.
They do, and certainly we as a select board have a statement in our operating procedure that we specifically say that it's not going to be following Robert's rules, because the burden is high. That's kind of a high benchmark, and so I don't know, to the extent that the Friends would be open to amending the bylaws. You might want to consider adopting language similar to what we have in our procedure. Most of the other subcommittees within the town have adopted that similar language that doesn't make them fully accountable to Robert's rules. So that you're not falling out of compliance with your bylaws. But that language already exists, so you're welcome to use it if there's not already a strong reason for doing it.
The group would be open to that. Just a quick question, Jamie, you're capturing all of this then, so I don't need to make notes?
I'm gonna do my best, yeah.
Well, we'll have the recording, so.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I'll see, yeah.
Okay, yeah, that certainly makes sense.
Yes. Oh,
I
Barbara.
have two questions about annual meetings, if that's okay.
Yeah.
So I'm wondering about, my understanding is that there's an annual meeting coming up next week on the 15th, is that correct?
We had that tentatively scheduled, but we're going to reschedule it pending. We decided it would be better to have the management agreement, whatever changes we're going to make, get into place so that as we bring new members onto the board, they're not in this flux point.
Yeah.
They've got a clear mandate going forward. We've got a clear mandate going forward.
Okay, so we need to take that off the website calendar.
Yeah, I only left it there because I hadn't officially had a meeting with all of the other Friends members to take the vote to move the date. That you can take it off, certainly.
Are you sure, or should I wait to hear from you?
Oh, no, I'm sure they'll be fine with it.
Okay, yeah, because the bylaws say you need to warn it for 14 days in advance.
Yeah.
Okay, so we'll take that off the
Yep.
calendar. So what has been the status of your annual meetings over the years?
Well, we have held annual meetings pretty consistently up until after 2022, I think is when we had the last official one. Variety of reasons why that occurred, but the big one, once again, I'll take responsibility for that just because I've been dealing with other commitments out of the area, and the consensus was from the board members that they did not want to have another remote-based annual meeting. The feedback we'd gotten at our last meeting, which was done remote, was that people wanted to have a meeting here in the hall in the evening when the majority of the community could attend. So there was a discussion amongst the friends, and the decision was to wait until we could actually get everybody together, same place, same time, have a meeting. I've been pushing for this for over a year actually to make it happen. And the most recent decision was to go ahead and have the grand reveal event that occurred, and then have Chris's play, and that's why we had set the date of the 15th to do it. I discussed with the friends the possibility, are we out of compliance with our bylaws here? There was a couple of different interpretations there. While the bylaws do discuss the annual meetings, it does not state it as an absolute requirement. But, once again, it's a loose interpretation, and my feeling has always been is that if we want to be compliant, we need to do it regularly.
You may have a requirement as a 501c3 to have an
Yes.
annual meeting.
Yes.
I think it's statute.
So,
Would this board like to see the minutes from their annual meetings?
well, I'd like to table that question for a minute, Barbara, but thank you. On the topic of scheduling the annual meeting, I think that kind of what we're working towards here is some more consistency in how the dialogue works between the town and the Friends, and knowing that the fall schedule can get jammed up quickly for select board members and town officials as we go into budgeting and annual planning schedules. I wonder whether or not the Friends would consider like earmarking. I work or sit on other boards for other nonprofit organizations, and we just say it's going to be the second Tuesday of whatever month following the changeover of our meeting, and with a little bit of flexibility there, it needs to be scheduled to align with regular meeting schedules or something like that, but at least it holds it in the calendar, and then the organization or any other organizations who who would have an interest in attending at least have it on the calendar at the same time, around the same time every year, give or
I
take.
welcome that. I don't see it as being an issue.
I don't think it would be particularly limiting.
My question would be, I'm just trying to understand what you said in terms of scheduling it. The way it's written right now is, I believe we're supposed to hold it within the first quarter.
Within the
after
first
start of the
quarter.
fiscal year.
Right.
So you're saying use that as the earmark and just set whatever date, the second Tuesday after the start of the new fiscal year?
Yeah, exactly, rather than making it a three-month window, where it's gonna inherently open the door for people to say that they've got scheduling conflicts. I think picking a more specific date following the changing of the fiscal year would help a lot with that. And I think
I'm certainly open to that. The thing I have to, since we're talking about the bylaws here, remind everybody that there would have to be
Of course.
a vote
Yep.
Yeah.
by the Friends to adopt these changes to the bylaws.
Barbara, did you have something else to add?
I'm not sure the specificity of when the meeting is held should be in the bylaws. It's the practice as opposed to
Right.
We
being
can
in the
narrow
bylaws,
window.
right? Like, it's already providing the framework of saying the first quarter of the new year, so I'm not sure that requires a change in the bylaws. A friendly amendment to what you're saying there. But
I don't know if I agree with you.
that's okay. We can disagree. That's why we're having this discussion, right?
Yeah.
You could also consider just narrowing the window.
Yeah, I think it's just a matter of narrowing the window. So what happens if it does, like right now, I guess, my personal interpretation of this would put the Friends out as of, the beginning of this month, out of compliance with their bylaws.
correct.
And I think the goal would be to not set folks up for that, or if there is a compliance issue that it's raised sooner than later and there's an opportunity to course correct faster. Because if you run into coming out of compliance at the end of the third quarter, then
Well, the trick of the trade is to simply put the date of your annual meeting on the agenda for the annual meeting that you're holding, right? So you hold your annual meeting and you just say, we always have it the second Tuesday, and you've already notified everyone that it's that date. Whatever you all
Meeting
decide.
of the board after election of officers. You have a set agenda by
Exactly.
one of them is, we're going to set aside this date for annual meeting, and we're going to post our meetings or whatever, announcements we need to cover.
Right.
It's kind of like after town meeting that the select board
Yep.
does.
the other, I think, issue is the reporting. There are, for me at least, there's an article for maintaining records, and then there is an obligation to generate reporting under the management services agreement, but it seems like there's a little bit of a disconnect between that obligation for reporting, but then the organization's own obligation to generate reporting in the bylaws. And it seems like at a minimum, putting reporting in the annual meeting section of the bylaws would be kind of an appropriate spot for that.
Did you see Article 9
The
in the
maintenance of
bylaws?
records?
In the bylaws?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So there's minutes in written or electronic form proceedings of the board, committees, and/or its membership. But are you speaking about something separate that would be specific to reporting back to select board, or?
I don't know, I'm just offering some commentary.
The terminology
for
is
thought. I mean,
different in the two documents,
Yeah, in
for
the
sure.
two documents, it seems a little it seems like there's a disconnect, I guess, between the two. But, you know, I guess if people are sufficiently comfortable that there's terminology for access to reporting or an obligation to report on certain things to the select board in the agreement, and that there's an obligation to maintain records in Article 9.
Yeah.
I feel like anything that we put into these articles that is more specific to, or anything that we request for consideration to add to these, to the bylaws, that kind of sets expectations around when reports are being generated or provided, that I think that is helpful. And certainly if the organization adopts bylaws that are more specific about when that annual meeting is, and that's, you know, sometime in like July or August, that's a really good time for the select board to receive reports,
Exactly.
like annual reports, so that it's just kind of a mechanism of the whole arrangement, as opposed to putting the select board in the position where it needs to make the request in that time frame. Sorry, Cliff, do you have any? This is getting in the weeds in a lot of language. I don't know.
So, I agree that it makes sense as we are rewriting the management agreement, if there are reporting requirements that are spelled out in the management agreement, that they should be adopted into the bylaws. There may be exceptions to that, but
Sure.
I can see working to dovetail the documents, make sure they're in alignment with each other.
Yeah.
One of the things that the Friends is embarking upon is we're currently developing a website, and we will be posting our regular meeting minutes onto the website, so that people can keep tabs on, you know, what the happenings with the Friends, as well as events coming up at the town hall and whatnot. And of course, as we get back into the habit of conducting annual meetings, there will be reports that will be generated as a result of that meeting, and then we can certainly share that with the select board on our website and whatnot as well. Just thinking financial reporting for the Friends occurs. I usually try to make a point of putting something in there at least once every quarter in the meeting. Sometimes because there's been a lot of activity, I might do it on a monthly basis when we meet. We can certainly, anytime we generate any of those reports, we can share those with the select board if that's what you want. In terms of the town meeting, we do provide a report every year. Basically, that just summarizes, these are some of the things that went on with the Friends in the Hall over the past year. I don't know if you want us to get really into all the details of the finances and whatnot for that report, but if that was a request, I'm sure we could come up with something, not make it too dry for the general public.
No, I certainly don't think that's necessary. I'm just thinking about, you know, how do we get ahead of budgeting and annual check-ins, and, you know, I think keeping the community updates kind of top level about achievements and bookings and that sort of thing makes plenty of sense. You know, I don't think it warrants getting into the weeds on the finances during the town meeting. If anybody wanted more insight into that, they did have an opportunity to attend the meeting. So I think
kind of the way we always did
Yeah,
specific
for sure.
questions. We're there to answer them. And with the website and some of the promotional activities that we're envisioning for the spring, you're going to see there's a lot more presence of the Friends of Calais Town Hall in the community and awareness by the community of the availability of the hall, which should lead to there being more questions when we're having our annual meetings.
Yeah.
Can I ask a question?
Yes.
Article 6, on Board of Directors, it says shall consist of no less than 5, and directors may reside outside of Calais. Well, how many directors may reside outside of Calais? All of
Never
them?
defined that.
I would have an issue with that.
The idea was to make it as inclusive as possible. Currently, all of our board members are residents. Barbara, you were kind of involved when these were written. Do you remember any of the other ideas behind that?
I think it was maybe mostly driven by David, because he knows so many people in the historic preservation world, that he thought if there was somebody who didn't live in Calais who could really contribute from that capacity. Does that ring a bell at all? David knows so many people in state government and different contexts that he didn't want to limit Calais residency from somebody who lives out of Calais who could really be of value to Friends of the Calais Town Hall. But you're right, we didn't designate that it has to be 80%.
Yeah, that's what we've done is used a number, of the 5, 3 would reside in Calais so that you'd have. And a related question for me, I think that's a good point, Bill, and I think that would deserve some consideration. The other question I had was the select board membership or representative appointed by the select board to serve as ex officio. Does that increase the number? You already have 5? Is that accurate? Do you have 5 board members now?
Yes.
And if we have a select board member, is that 6? Or what was the intention
And
there?
it's done, doesn't necessarily have to be a select board member.
Or the person appointed by the select board?
Somebody appointed by the select board, or the select board could say, okay, who's on your board? Would one of you be willing to serve in that capacity for us? It was, I think the idea there was left open to make it as easy as possible. The other thing that was going on at that point in time is we had someone who was on the select board who was also on the board of the Friends, so it made it much easier
I
to
see.
fulfill that requirement.
Okay. But since that person is no longer, that's no longer the case, is that accurate?
Yeah, that person is me.
Right. Okay. Let's talk in specifics. That'd be awesome. Great. Okay. So, and since that time, we haven't. The select board hasn't named someone. Is that accurate?
No, and I've more or less taken on that role naturally as fallout, even though I wasn't on the select board anymore. I was available to.
Okay, that's helpful. Thank you.
Yeah, I don't really have strong opinions about the volumes. I think part of what I'm struggling with is, these documents are in part guiding documents, and then also in part, protections for interested parties to have modes of action when they need them if there are non-compliances or just not happy with how things are working out. And I think if I think about what the role of the select board member or liaison could be in a situation where the organization is operating outside of their outside of the bylaws or being managed outside of their bylaws, that would bring into question whether it's appropriate to be engaged in a service contract or agreement with them, right? Mm-hmm. So do we need to dovetail the document to that extent, or are we comfortable enough with language in the agreement regarding management services for the, that has the 6 week or, whatever the notice period is for cancellation of that agreement or needing to open up the agreement. Maybe I just gave the rationalization that we don't need anything in there. All right. It doesn't say anything in that section 5 about the select board's liaison's term of service. But I guess that's up to the select board to decide at the time of appointment, right?
Yeah.
I think we need to add it to the annual appointment calendar
Yeah,
system we have,
absolutely.
Yeah, exactly.
even if it's going to be the same person.
If this person is to be a member of the board of the Friends, we have to look at how board members are created, because currently they're elected
By the membership or by the board members?
by the membership.
At the annual
Board members
meetings.
At the annual meeting, then the board members, after
Yeah.
people are nominated, then the board decides who's going to do what. Be it the chair or vice chair, secretary, or whatever, treasurer. And I believe that the term for a board member on the Friends is a
Just 2 years, yeah.
With no
And there are
term
no
limits.
term limits. So the other possible approach here would be, as I said before, where there's a board, a body, and we notify after the annual meeting, here's the new board members, here's everybody who's going to be serving and what role they're going to serve. And we make a point of assigning one of the board members. You're going to be the point person. And then we propose that person to the select board. The select board could say yay or no, we think there's conflict of interest there. Go back to the drawing board, propose somebody else. That might be a way to work around all of those intricacies.
I mean, I think, as I read this, that section 5 under Board of Directors seems to call out that it defines at least one position that's being potentially held for an appointed position from the select board. I guess it would be worth the Friends having somebody look over this and to say that they're comfortable with that and that the understanding is that it operates outside of the normal election process of it's a standing position.
It's a standing position. Would they then be a voting member of the Board of the Friends? Is that your?
It already says that they are. So, I think if you wanted to get ahead of it a little bit, you could, in section 1 under powers, where it describes how many you could say that at least one of the positions would be, an appointed position by the select board. Or if everybody's comfortable with the language within the Friends and the expectations with how it's written in section 5. But the way I understand it is that it's defining at least one of the positions as operating outside of the voting process, and it would be somebody who's appointed by the select board as
outside the election.
or election. I'm
Yeah,
sorry,
That's at the annual meeting election.
Yeah.
The Robert's rules say, unless bylaws explicitly state otherwise, ex officio members have the same rights and powers as other members,
Yeah.
including the right to vote,
Yes.
participate in debate, and count toward quorum. So,
Right.
Not opposed to any of this. I'm just trying to understand.
yeah, I didn't know what that meant.
Yeah, I think that is consistent with what section 5 currently says.
Yeah.
It seemed to be what people were contemplating in 2020, that there was going to be really a 6th member who was going to be appointed by the select board.
You do read it as an extra member.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it also just says that the board is going to have no less than 5. So,
Right.
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 Probably irrelevant.
We don't have a cap on how many.
how many?
Right.
It's just a minimum.
Right.
I need to reread the document because there's a nagging thing in me saying somewhere there's something that says the board members have to be elected, and I don't know if it's necessarily in this document or in another document that we have somewhere.
I mean, it says section 2, election board members will be elected to fill open seats by the Friends membership each year at the corporation's annual meeting.
Right.
So, but there's a separate section 5 about the
Exactly.
relationship to the select board, right?
And so I think
So in section 2, you could just add a clause that says, with the exception of
Right.
ex officio positions, and then that covers you, and then the section 5 kicks in.
yeah, once again, it's getting everything aligned.
Yeah.
All right. Well, so
I have a question.
yes. Oh, sorry. Oh, sorry. Barbara.
So
Yes.
I have a question about election. So what I just heard Barbara read, and she reminded me, because I did read the bylaws earlier, that the members of the corporation, the membership elects the board members.
Right.
But I thought I heard you say a little while ago that the board members elect board members.
No.
He was talking about officers.
Officers.
He was referring to
The
officers.
board members elect the officers.
Yeah.
Got it. Okay, thank you.
Which is normal.
Yeah. Seems more. Does anybody else have any other questions about the bylaws? I don't want to get too bogged down on another body's bylaws.
Yeah.
I was mostly just wanted to touch on that because most of the feedback I think is relative to the agreement, and I think there were just a couple of areas where it was worth noting some adjustments to the bylaws if the Friends are willing to consider them. That might help just kind of dovetail the documents to Cliff's point together a little bit more.
Yeah. The only other question I had, in the rental, it says a couple times in the bylaws, well, officers and then no board members receiving compensation. Does any of the various rental fee extra charges, do those go to the people? How do those work? Do those, like the supervisory, right? If a board member if a renter is charged the $50 an hour
A site
for
manager.
a site manager, is that going to Friends or like hiring somebody to be a site manager?
Right now, it would go to Friends.
Okay.
Fortunately, we haven't had to deal with that, but going forward, as we realize that there will be more opportunities where that will be required, then what we're imagining is that we would vote to set aside, budget this much for site manager for this event that we've approved, and that person basically becomes an independent contractor. And it would also likely preclude any of the board members from taking on that role.
Right, I was just wanting that to not be in conflict with itself.
Yeah, no, there was discussion early on because there were members of the board at the time who, oh yeah, I'd like to do that and I could get paid for doing that. And I thought, well, okay, but then you couldn't be on the board.
Yeah, right.
Should we look at the agreement?
Yes, please. So similarly, I've got just kind of notes scribbled through each section. So if that format of kind of going through each section and soliciting feedback makes sense to everyone, maybe we take that approach for the agreement. What do we have for timing here?
We're over.
Oh, what? How? So under the purpose, I have some notes here. I think Just want to, I think, acknowledge that, like, the part of the reason that we're getting to this point, I think, is that there have been kind of expectations set around, like, how the two entities would work together, but now that we're getting to the point where we want to be hosting events and promoting the space and use, we're recognizing, I think, some shortcomings in the agreement that we'd like to bring a little more clarity around, and especially now that there's been a pretty significant equipment installation that I think fair to say that it exceeded the expectations or the scope of work that some folks felt like they were aware of. Not to say that they were a step in a wrong direction or a right direction, but it just raises the stakes on the usage of the space and making sure that everybody's assets and interests are protected, I guess. And so what kind of struck me a little bit about the agreement is that while the purpose kind of clearly sets up what who the two entities are, it doesn't really establish who has ownership of the property and approval of how it's used or how it's modified. And I think that there could be a benefit to having that in the purpose or some sort of definition of what the town hall is, at least, and recognizing it as a structure that is owned by the town. Is that fair?
Yeah, our approach has always been that, yes, it is not our building, that whenever we are imagining something like this happening, that we would bring it to the board and notify if there was not a clear picture of what we were doing. Made to all of the current board members. I apologize for that. That was one of the reasons I'd asked Artie to liaise with Kari in terms of this project so that there wouldn't be surprises. But formalizing that in the language, I would agree it makes sense to have something along those lines.
Yeah.
Right, I think, and this is, us as much as you, because there was communication with Artie and Kari and myself. But in hindsight, I think we all probably would have, appreciated seeing drawings and like doing a walkthrough of exactly what equipment is being installed where and what's it going to look like and what's the impact on the historic preservation of the building, and knowing who's doing the work, and it's all certified electrician doing it, go through sort of some of the processes that the town would go through if the town were doing work on a historic building.
Yeah, I mean, I think they need to be in there. We don't really define what any kind of approval process would be or what would trigger said approval process. And I think that at a minimum needs to be articulated in the agreement so that the town is in the best position to be the steward of the building. Whether or not the town agrees to have equipment installed that is owned by the Friends, I think is fine and beside the point, but there needs to be a clear expectation around like what the process is for approving that would be in line with any of the other town assets. And we're just kind of getting around to that now. I mean, if we wanted to make a change to the town hall, we would have, or the town office, we would need to have an approval of that, by the select board, even if it was coming at the recommendation of Kari, or at the oversight of Kari.
Right. Right. I mean, certainly any like sound mitigation stuff we did down here, a design would come to the select board to be approved, and it probably should be the same for any part of the building.
I would just like to add a point here. I totally agree with putting this kind of language into the agreement. I would also suggest the select board may want to consider reviewing the usage agreement.
The policy.
The usage policy, definitely.
Yeah.
there's possibilities other people may want to do things to the building, and so there should be some language in there as well.
Definitely.
Yeah, I went back and looked up the policy, which I don't know, forgive me, but I don't remember if we reviewed that at this body in my time here, but that, you then have a third document that needs reconciliation with the other two, basically. Yeah.
And that's the parent document. If the select board doesn't have to consult with anybody on the usage policy, if you decide you don't want any purple balloons in the building, you put it in usage policy and it's done. You don't have to renegotiate an agreement.
Right.
Structure and purpose was pretty straightforward to me. Management duties, those where my notes start kind of kicking in. So I thought there was some interesting language in the first paragraph with working within the budgeted expenditures as approved by the town. So again, this just kind of gets back to wanting to be explicit about, a little more explicit about when reporting is happening. And, you know, right now there's a fund that is established and there haven't been really expenditures unless they're specifically approved by the board relative to a scope of work that's being done to or an improvement that's being done to the town hall. But there's kind of an allusion to, you know, having budget expenditures approved by the town, but not an obligation to report a budget at a particular time frame, right? It's a little ambiguous to me. So is that a town budget?
It's always that this information would be made available to the select board whenever they wanted it. With the select board that was in place at that point in time, there was never a definition as to when they wanted that.
Yeah.
So we've kind of inheriting that. But I would think that it could come back to the annual meeting and the information is reported there and shared with the select board. If the select board happens to attend the meeting, they'll get it twice.
Well, I think that also kind of folds into several bullet points down closer to the bottom where there's a reference to a capital letter town hall management plan. Do the Friends have a town hall management plan?
So we offered the select board at that point in time to help them because that was something they were interested in pursuing. And whenever we brought the subject up, we were basically told, well, yeah, we're going to get around to that. Didn't. More than happy to work with the current select board in developing something along those lines. But we always imagined that that would not occur in a vacuum. It would have to be developed in concert.
Yeah.
Okay.
And if that's something you'd like to retain in an agreement and actively pursue, we're open to it by all means.
Yeah, I think that anything like that, again, is going to be useful, and then I just kind of wonder whether or not it's an opportunity to kind of consolidate any of these things and then just make it part of the annual meeting, which would have a select board member attending as a liaison. So if we define what the town hall management plan is, if it's a capital plan or if it's just an annual report, or if we call it the same thing, town hall management plan and report, then that's just the one document that we're looking at that's a report on like what's the medium-term goals and
I think the idea
budget and plan for doing that.
there was probably with the previous board or the board that existed at that point in time, so I should phrase that, different ideas as to what that would look like. We initially imagined it would be something as simple as, hey, we noticed that the water heater is starting to thump a lot, and we might need to consider replacing it. So something to be aware of and look to potentially budget. Other members of the then select board said, well, what if we develop this whole capital plan like they have with the fire department or whatever and whatnot? And okay, well, we can work with you on that, but you're going to need to set aside time and do it, and it just never came to fruition.
Sure.
So if we're going to implement that, we definitely want to get agreement as to what the vision of what that's going to look like.
Yeah, this actually relates to something I was thinking about in terms of and I think maybe the management plan is is part of that, but is that the agreement sort of skews towards the specificity around events. It's a little more developed around how events are handled, essentially, and less developed around, you know, what are the objectives around fundraising? What are the objectives around, you know, the further development of the building, or the advancing the, you know, trying to make it a 4-season room upstairs, that kind of thing. So I think that, you know, there's sort of 3 areas of purpose of the Friends, as far as I understand it, and I feel like the activities have been getting a lot of attention. You know, now that we're having some, it's starting to raise issues, but I would take care that we also have those other 2 legs of the stool, I guess is what I mean.
Yeah, and a big part of that was we felt we were putting the cart before the horse, thinking we were going to be able to do all that. Then we realized if we're not having those activities, if we don't have the draw of the equipment and whatnot, we're not in a position to define any of those other things and what they look like. So very much a work in progress, but
Yeah.
point well taken.
Yeah, and not really a criticism, much more of just like at this point in time,
Understood.
you know, let's think through all 3 of those areas.
Absolutely. Yeah, thank you.
Oh man, I just want to be cognizant of like how far behind schedule we're going, and just check in with everyone on the rest of the agenda and kind of the scope of feedback that we may have on the rest of this, and what might be an efficient way to kind of capture the rest of the dialogue. I don't think that we're too far off, you know, in intense, but I don't know. I also want to be sensitive to not putting Cliff on the hook for responding to all of this as we go through it. So,
Table the rest of it, get it in the next meeting? Or
I think maybe it'd be, I'd like to give everybody an opportunity to maybe speak to a particular thing that struck them, or something that they would like to just kind of note maybe, and then table the rest of it and charge somebody with consolidating the feedback in totality.
We've already designated Jane as the recipient of emails, so you can get into as much detail as you want. But I thought this was going to be for the highest level, like what's missing or needs to be changed or looked at, or, you know,
It'd be good to,
themes or principles.
exactly.
Yeah, that's right. And I guess I would offer out there, if I'm going to go first, to set the tenor. Because to Barbara's point, like I think a lot of this was written with the intent of managing a relationship relative to a very specific scope of use for the upstairs, and then it's just like, okay, well, if we're doing that, maybe we just absorb the responsibility of also kind of like coordinating things in the downstairs space, and I guess I would offer up the question to the Friends of whether or not they really want that responsibility, because we have a downstairs space that is largely used for municipal and community things, and we have an upstairs space that would be more focused on private events or private community things, and I'd be interested to know how passionately the friends feel about, managing the entirety of the booking responsibilities for this, or if we maybe start to work towards defining the spaces a little bit differently and their uses a little bit differently, and the managing of the booking then differently. I mean, there is language in here to protect conflicts of when those things could overlap, but that's a lot. That's a lot for, I think, the friends to be trying to manage if they're also focused on trying to build out these community events. Is that right?
So, speaking for the Friends, I can say if we ask 6 board members of the Friends that question, you may get 6 different.
That's fair.
However, we have discussed this as a board, and yes, there is some reticence to take on that additional responsibility, but with an eye towards some of the issues that opened up this conversation to where we are now. There was a realization that we need to simplify the process for anyone who's interested in utilizing the hall, be it to have an event upstairs or be it to have a birthday party downstairs. And if we start divvying up those responsibilities, it seems like now we're making it more complicated again. Well, if it's downstairs on a Tuesday, then you can talk to the town office or whatever body the select board is created to manage that. But if it's on a Saturday and it's this kind of event, then yeah, we're going to have you go to the Friends and talk to them. It just made more sense as we discussed it amongst the Friends, is if we centralized it and kept it that way, it would be easier for members of the community to just know they have one place to go to anytime they want to do something that's not directly related to town business, and do it at the hall. Be it a birthday party, be it a play, be it a reading, be it a rehearsal space, whatever. We had it was like a give and take event here one time, and it was scheduled downstairs on a weekend and whatnot. Yeah, there's some extra burden there, but I don't think it's insurmountable. Part of what we're doing with the website is the current thing that happens if somebody comes to us and says, I'd like to do something at the hall, we have to have all this back and forth. What do you want to do? How many people? How long is it going to last and whatnot? We're creating a form for this website where all those questions are asked up front. The person who's submitting their request is prompted with the key questions, so we don't delay the process with all this back and forth. And I think that will relieve the Friends of a lot of the burden. And I would suggest that if it ever got to the point where there was such overwhelming interest for those types of activities in just the downstairs space and whatnot, and we felt we couldn't handle it, that we would have the latitude to come back to the board and say, hey, can you give us a hand, or can we talk this over and come up with some other solutions because it's not working for us.
I think that's true, but I think it also puts the Friends in a position where there's an underlying aspiration for the usage of the space and a preference for its and a financial preferential treatment for it to be used toward that way, and that those events that would be put on by like the Gospel Hollow Players are so robust in nature that it puts the Friends in the position where they need to protect access to that for hosting those particular events. And so trying to speak cryptically. I'm sleep deprived, so I don't know how this works. But you know what I'm saying? Or it's just like it's like a reverse incentive to try to keep the schedule for upstairs protected, so that it is used or is available for use for these larger community events. And the problem is that those seem to be kind of like a moving target and require a significant amount of infrastructure for putting on those things. And there's not really anything to kind of dictate how those events are planned or scheduled. Other than saying that they have a right to them. And I guess what I'm working towards, it seems like there's already an expectation about how that space would like to be used by that particular entity, and how the Friends would like to promote its use for events like that, or other revenue generating events, or other kind of community events. But personally, I think it would be helpful to try to lock down like when those the time frame for when those things are going to be, and if they're not going to be for one reason or another scheduled or need to be canceled, that the space is then released to booking for the community or made available for use by the community with a certain expectation around what the state of it is going to be in, like what the state of the facility, whether it's down here or upstairs. Part of the problem is that there isn't really much expectation around like, okay, well, if somebody wants to use the space down here, what's the expectation for how it's going to be put back together relative to how it's normally used. And I think the same has to go for upstairs too, even though the scope of the work is big.
Sorry, if I can just...
Please do, Barbara. Keep me in the guardrails.
I think there is, the guardrails are nowhere to be seen.
It's a gross mischaracterization of this conversation.
No. I think we are really feeling the fact that we haven't had a strong role of the select board on the board. Not that this is not a criticism of you, Cliff, but just that we're not enough engaged. I think, and so I guess I would say, Jordan, some of the points you're making, while I might agree with you, I'm not sure it's totally the management agreement that's the issue. It's that this relationship needs to be strengthened, and if there's aspects of the management agreement that need modification, I agree, but I think part of the reason it's sort of challenging to address is that there's not an insider of the select board working through sort of where they all are at. And this agreement was written before, as you were saying, before there was actual activity going on. And so it's a sort of time for a deeper dive of what all the Friends is trying to accomplish, and this at the same time address some of these issues in the management agreement. But I would just go further to say that given the time, that it might make sense for us to make make more time at another meeting and provide Jamie with a bunch of with direct feedback about the management agreement and stop there.
And maybe it would make sense to have a smaller meeting that's maybe 2 members of Friends and 2 members of the select board to do what we're starting to do, but really don't have time to do, and to really go through, because I think, a lot of your questions, a lot of questions on it, it is good to have a dialogue.
Yeah.
And have, it's like you all can send me stuff, but a lot of it's questions we're looking for answers for rather than specific, I think this should be worded this way.
In part, but I think that there's also kind of, from my perspective, there's a question of how we want to go out and making sure that there's alignment between the organization and how we want to promote the use of the space. And I think that there's no question that I would love to see the the use of the space upstairs for, you know, community plays and that sort of thing. Like, I think that that's a great use for that space for sure. But I also think that like there's a lot of IT infrastructure that we have now added to the downstairs, and if somebody wanted to use the space downstairs for hosting their own little local conference or, you know, something like that. But that seems to be a really interesting direction to be going, because it's one of the few buildings in town that is this size that also has that infrastructure in place. And then the question is that the type of thing that the Friends are going to want to try to manage the booking for, because that is kind of falling outside of the scope of something like this. So if that's the type of promoting of use of the space that we as a community think we want to continue to embrace.
I can answer that question if that is the question.
Yeah, sure. Well, no, I don't. It is intended to be a rhetorical question. That's just a specific rhetorical question that I think is more of an example of the type of dialogue that I think needs to be kind of worked through with some feedback, I think, from the community. Because if we're going to open this up and make some modifications, we want to make sure that we're incorporating those aspirational elements from the community side as much as from the Friends and the town management side.
You go first.
Thank you. I just wanted to say that we're imagining doing just that with this space. There's plans to have sections in the website where, hey, this place is available for meetings and it's wired. And you've got strong, and the reason we gladly take that role on, and I think it's important that we be allowed to do that, is it's going to impact our fundraising abilities. As we look for donations or trying to fund this remodel of the upstairs, we don't want to tap into taxpayers. We want to do it independent of that. And if we can create a vibrant organization that is showing all of the wonderful ways this town hall can be used, and people know that the Friends are running with that ball, they're going to be more likely to support us financially as well.
Yeah, I think there's a tendency, for me at least, maybe others, to think that the difference between Friends and the town is that the Friends is upstairs and the town is downstairs. But in reality, the difference is the town is any municipal activities, and the Friends are any rented activities, anything that's revenue generating. And so whether it's upstairs or downstairs, it's just they would need to do it outside of the municipality and governance and activities that the town books take priority downstairs. But if the downstairs is available and it's for rental, it's them.
Right, it's a non-municipal.
And if it's a non-municipal event.
I think that's very true with respect to the like scheduling piece. I think the bigger picture is that the select board, and again, it might be that I'm not aware, but I'm not aware, I'll just speak for myself. I'm not aware of what the plan is for Friends. And so I would feel, it's great to hear that you've got these thoughts going on for the website. So I think that, and that has implications for how the building gets promoted and used. I don't know what those are, and so that's what I think as a select board member, I'm sitting here, whenever I hear you say something, I'm like, great, I'm glad to hear that. I didn't know that existed. So what you need to hear, at least from me as select board members, I need to know more about what's going on with the Friends and like what the plans are. And part of that could be that we just need this, we need to resolve this liaison thing a little bit more tightly.
But I think we need probably tighter approval over like what the scheduling frequency is going to be, because I think there needs to be like a mechanism for that. I mean, the upstairs being used for 20 big events, plays a year as opposed to a handful, what a problem to have, I guess, but like also, like if there's no mechanism for saying like, well, who approved the schedule and how many times it was gonna be used for this particular thing, and the opportunity cost that may create for other community organizations to use the building or us, that, you know, that's what I think we need to start like working towards for the, in large part for the agreement. And so then what are the mechanisms for doing that? Then we're gonna have to define what they are, because they currently don't exist, you know. Right, so, great. Let's thank you, Cliff, genuinely for putting up with that brain dump. And thank you, Jamie, and to ask the select board members to put together their lists and organize them by section, for Jamie to kind of consolidate, probably worth scheduling for the next meeting, just to kind of go over what those things are to make sure that we have captured them all, and then task you with going forth and bringing that to the Friends. So that would be another 2 weeks then, I guess, before we're really, or 3 weeks, because we've got a little bit of a break. Yeah, thank you. Before the Friends are seeing anything.
And Jamie, do you want help with this?
Probably.
Yeah. Do you want me to be
But
your
we
second?
can-
Well, I was going to offer, I mean, if it would help drafting or anything like that.
Yeah, I mean, I think we should see, everyone should send me sort of, I feel like there's sort of two categories of things, right? There's big picture, right? What sort of big picture things are not captured in the agreement? And then there's the nitty gritty of this article and that article. But yeah, I think maybe depending, if everybody sends me your notes and thoughts, then maybe some combination, or maybe even the three of us could sit down at some point for an hour and just go through it all and make sure we, yeah.
A little dialogue would be helpful.
Yeah, definitely.
Is there?
Do you want to set a date by which time people get their feedback to you, their changes and thoughts and questions?
Right, I mean, if we're hoping to have a document, I have one set of notes, 3 weeks from today,
Right.
you know, maybe we have a goal of sort of,
How about Monday morning, and then we can set the time next week?
right, a week from today, you have your notes to me, and then the three of us can email and find a time next week to
Yep.
do that.
Thank you.
So everybody gives their notes to Jamie by Monday. And then there's some dialogue between the three of you to kind of formalize those and condense them. Are we imagining in the subcommittee of you and Barbara and Artie and Carol and myself meeting again before the select board reconvenes in 3 weeks?
My suggestion would be bring it back to the select board, see, just check.
See if we've
Yeah.
gotten
See if
it
we're on
right.
the right track.
Right.
Yeah.
And then that's the time to go and,
I agree. Yeah, so it would come back to the select board on the 27th.
Because that's fine. The reason I ask is because Friends likely will have some changes that they might want
Right.
as well. When they get opportunity to present that to the board. So the next select board meeting is simply to review changes, potential.
I mean, I don't know what that agenda looks like, but maybe we, if there's time, right.
Well, the budget, I was just, the point I would make there is just the budget.
there's a little more fully, we have more guests.
Yeah.
but-
And Mark Mahaly is also coming on the 27th.
Great,
Okay.
great.
So that would just be reviewing the select board's proposed amendments and.
I mean, I get
summarize
your
the discussion.
point, and I don't disagree that in some ways it would make sense for the
To
select
combine.
board to view both sets of comments on the document at once. I sort of see pros and cons, but yeah.
No, I'm comfortable with however you want to do it, and just ask so that I know what to present.
Right, yeah.
And if you want to do that, handle the select boards first, then we can meet and have that dialogue. Friends can propose their changes, and then we set a date to have a proposed final draft that goes in front of the Friends and meeting with the select board, and everybody signs off and I'll drink a beer together.
I guess I would say, because that's going to be so full and it also punts things, I think it would make sense that, like, if the Friends have edits that they'd like to see integrated, that should be compiled and maybe provided to the select board in time for that meeting, and then the draft that's going to get circulated to the select board that is a collated version of select board input, like the select board can get that in advance and individually review it, and then also individually review the potential edits that the Friends would also be proposing at the same time, so that when we're looking at it on the 27th, we at least have a fairly comprehensive list of the types of edits that both parties would like to see. And where there's sufficient overlap, maybe on the 27th, we're just deciding, okay, this is where there's sufficient overlap, and then that feeds the next step for both groups looking at it together. Are folks following that? Does that make sense, Cliff?
Makes sense. I would say, and I'm sure you're already imagining this, that whatever amendments, changes, edits are proposed by the select board, the Friends would want an opportunity to review that.
Absolutely, for sure. Yeah, no,
So, we're not finalizing anything at the 27th. We're just saying, here's everybody's inputs.
I think, yeah, by the 27th, I think we're just probably trying to get to the point where we're having everybody's input from both organizations kind of coming together and seeing where there's overlap, and probably not spending a significant amount of time, but at least we'll have both of those, and then we'll share them between groups.
Should surface the key issues, right?
Yeah, exactly.
And then at that point, if the agreement is, okay, everybody's inputs have been sufficiently captured, then we can go back to the subcommittee and finalize the draft.
I think so.
Yeah.
All right.
So if Friends can get your suggestions and edits to us by the 22nd, so we can get it in the select board folders for review in advance of the 27th meeting.
Right.
That would be great.
Yeah.
The 22nd.
Yep.
Okay.
I can get mine in by the 22nd.
Thanks, Cliff. And thanks everybody for kind of putting up with that brain dump and mind meld, whatever that experience was. We'll table the rest of the discussion on that and move on to the next bit of work, which are reports. So we've got. Thank you, Cliff.
Take care.
Tegan's report.
We went over the technology check-in. You were there first.
Yeah.
Just the key points that Tegan wanted to pass along with our meeting with RB Tech. They do an annual executive summary of their take on the relationship and how the customer is progressing. And they said that we've implemented all of their priorities at this point except for a password manager, so that we're going to work on that next. I take it there'll be future priorities, but we've worked through the things that were the top priorities recently. They talked about they're going to have to raise their rates in the coming year, and then Tegan and I will work on that to incorporate that into the budget. In terms of capital planning, we're still catching up on replacing certain computers. There was a year that was skipped, and they recommend replacing 4 machines a year. I think it's probably doable to continue doing 3 a year. There's 12 total, so it should be fine. And this year's executive summary is forthcoming. We'll share it when we get it from them. But overall, and if you'd agree, Jordan, it was a pretty productive conversation. Sounds like we're, at least in their view, on good track, and they're not going to get any cheaper. That was the big takeaway.
Yeah, I think they were very complimentary of our forward-looking kind of approach to some of the technology issues and our management of them. So that was pretty confidence-inspiring, and didn't have any major red flags about our use of technology or misuse of technology or exposure, et cetera, et cetera. So that also I think was good from just kind of like a risk assessment standpoint, looking at our situation as very, very stable. But yeah, they're not going to be getting much cheaper, or any cheaper. We did talk briefly on opportunities to try to save around licensing and that sort of thing, which is a conversation, to continue to have in the future. But that, by comparison, is pretty small potatoes relative to the overall expense that we incur for.
Do they work with a number of municipalities?
Yeah.
Okay.
They do. So we are well ahead of the curve in most of our implementations. And while that certainly adds expense, it adds a lot of stability in how things are handed off, and reduces the risk of lost information and records, et cetera. So that increased cost should definitely be viewed in the context of reduced risk. Town admin report beyond that?
Yeah, so main thing I wanted to just make sure everyone's aware of the situation with the Kent Hill Road project. We had the final invoice came in, it was significantly higher. We knew it was going to be higher. There's already been one change order that was approved, but we knew that they had excavated more material than the specifications called for, and of course that had to be replaced with other material. So when the final bill came in, it's $37,255 over what we budgeted, including the grant reimbursement. So I'm trying to get a little more clarity on why exactly they excavated more, and was it the length, width, width or depth? I haven't had that conversation yet. But more importantly, we've asked the state grant person if there is more funds available since our project was higher. And we haven't heard back yet. Toby made that request on Thursday, so hopefully we'll hear back from them this week. The invoice is not due until the end of the month, so I think we have time to answer that question and any others that you might have about this. But that's sort of the.
Well, I think, Kari, you raised a pretty interesting and important point, in your memo, is that I believe this is accurate in saying that this is a project was approved with a different makeup of the select board. It's a project that had been lingering for a while, and as we
deferred, right, because of extended because of the flooding.
And so I think what we're learning, and part of the challenge, certainly from my perspective, is that out of all of these types of projects, there was a lot of lacking information on the specification. What the expectation was on volume of materials, and I know the contractors had questions about that too. So trying to standardize, I think, at a minimum, what our format is for receiving bids and quotes. And I guess my question would go back to the engineers and saying like, well, where did we define, or should we have defined what a reasonable amount of material would need to come out, or would be to come out, and what would be the trigger for saying, okay, well, more needs to come out because why? We're not reaching sound ground or ledge or whatever it was, and that didn't really exist for this, because I just don't think the engineers were asked for it. They gave us a spec on a building, on a construction detail or strategy, but it left a lot to be seen on the material specification.
It kind of feels like the engineer was out of the picture at a certain point.
Yeah.
Which is really unusual, right? I mean, you have to have somebody with more expertise than our team had. Right? With any construction project, it's like the three-legged stool is the owner, the contractor, and then the design expert, right?
Yeah.
And like with the dam, the engineer played a really key role in oversight of the construction.
Right, and with the dam, like, it was very clearly spec'd out, and we knew in advance the things we didn't know,
Yeah.
right? It was like, we don't know how far it is to get rock, so
Yeah,
this
good point.
cost
Good
won't
point.
be fixed, but this cost is fixed because we know it.
Yeah.
And I think it's fair to say that this is not a dam project, right? But like at the same time,
for sure.
it would have been easy for the engineer to go out and say that you've got a road section of this much width and length and potential volume. Here's your plus side, your low side, high side of what your material usage expectation should be relative to this construction pattern and relative to what we might expect for a subgrade material, et cetera, et cetera. And so, however we get toward standardizing making sure that when we're scoping a project, that we're making sure that is somehow captured in the bid documentation.
Right, and making sure the bid documents are clear of which pieces are fixed bid and which, it's like, there are parts in the dam that it's like, if it goes over, the contractor eats it. Right, and there were pieces that the contractor said no, like if it goes over, it's a change order.
Yeah.
So having more clarity on that would be helpful.
Were these estimates or were they quotes? I thought.
It was a quote for a certain amount of material based on the specification of the bid. But the specification, according to the contractor, was not enough. If you want us to do this job correctly, we needed to take.
I'd like to hear from the engineer myself. I'd like
Yeah.
to know why we're paying almost 40% more for a job. Because any one of these other people could have done the job too for that amount of money.
Right.
So it's fair, we need to understand what they did and what we need to do in the future. This doesn't happen again. Because if I was these other contractors, I wouldn't be very happy with us right now.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
That's my opinion.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
Yeah, a better understanding of what went wrong.
Yeah.
I also want to go back to
It's
the,
always good to do that.
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Learn more.
Right.
Absolutely.
what we can learn from this. I also want to go back to the grant application to make sure we built a contingency in, because that's, regardless of the issue, you need to have a contingency. And if the state's willing to pay 80% of that with their grant, they expect to, I think.
Yeah.
Well, there are certain grants that require a 10% contingency these days, because they want to make sure you can get the project done.
Right.
So anyway, there's definitely some more follow-up here.
Interesting.
So
We covered most of the other items.
that was that topic. I want to make sure everyone's aware that there is a request for, a specific request, at least for Jordan and I, to add signage or ways of alerting drivers on County Road about giving bikers and pedestrians plenty of berth. And part of that context is that people are maybe driving a lot faster, that it's a smoother drive now. And And so we do have a recommendation from the Regional Planning Commissioner about this kind of sign that alerts people to the 4-foot rule, which I wasn't even aware of, but that is state law now. So I was going to go ahead and get a few of those and place them where it makes sense on County Road. And if there are other places in town where it makes sense, it seems most pressing on County Road. I don't know if people bike very much on Route 14, but we could certainly do it there as well. But the other thing I wanted to say is that I think that a request for reviewing the speed limit is probably coming.
Yeah, a lot of new context, I think, has come in since we last had this conversation. One is that the increase in rates for enforcement are going up faster than we can likely absorb to get the increase in enforcement volume that we were originally hoping for when last year we looked at increasing that. So I think that that's kind of an unsustainable pattern. On top of that, the regional guidance is changing around the methodology behind speed limit rate setting around the 85% rule. And the kind of inherent flaws that are kind of baked into that, or weaknesses, I guess, in that particular methodology. So
they are being changed?
There's dialogue around, whether or not they're always appropriate, or whether or not there are other considerations to take into review. Anyway, so there's likely going to be an opportunity or a need for reviewing at least that portion of the traffic ordinance, and we should expect to get into that, I think, before we get into like the spring bike riding season, so that we're being responsive to community concerns and that sort of thing. So just wanted to earmark that.
Yeah. It's only a matter of time until someone formally asks for it.
Exactly.
Yeah, and it's come up so many times for so many years.
We're being specific to County Road.
To County Road, yeah.
And specific to the 50.
Yeah.
And it's come up and been, but the context has changed because the guidance has changed?
Because the guidance around speed limit setting is changing.
Yeah, and the surface has changed.
And the surface has changed.
Well, and the usage has changed. I think there's a lot more bicycle traffic than there was 5 years ago.
I can't speak to that. That seems a little anecdotal, but what has changed specifically to the biking is the distance, which was a relatively new law that was adopted, I believe, right? I think it was this year. There was already a buffer, but that buffer has now been increased.
I think in some ways, the most important thing is that one thing hasn't changed, which is there are still plenty of people that are concerned about 50 being too fast. And it's just a somewhat divisive issue in town. I remember the Front Porch Forum posts going back and forth. People feel pretty strongly, in both directions. So it's not like that. It's just never going to go away, right? And whatever you decide, there are going to be people that still want it to be changed.
Yep.
Is East Montpelier been looking at this again at all? That may be a good question to ask their select board.
I can ask that. I can tell you that I was copied on an email, a request from the East Montpelier town administrator asking the sheriff to do more patrolling, and you probably saw the sign, the radar sign set up. That was a response to by the sheriff saying, yeah, we'll do more, because somebody who lives on County Road was complaining that people are going 60, 70 miles an hour on that flat stretch.
Right by me. I get past every day on my way to work.
In a car.
In a car.
To East Montpelier or Calais?
Either, but usually it's in the flat, but because I slow down to 45.
Yeah, that's what I do. Yeah.
And they've already been frustrated that I've been going 50 and not 60. So
Really?
I really do. I get past all the time.
Really? Man. Wow. Okay.
Anyway, I'll check with them and see if,
Which I don't know, changing the speed limit's gonna change anything. I think that's the question.
Yeah, more patrol.
I do like I think the sign in East Montpelier is actually, it's big and it's temporary and it's sort of got, and I'm like, oh, is there a camera on this thing? Like, I wonder what, you know
it
what I
says
mean?
sheriff on it.
It does, it does look a little more,
more official.
official than some of the other stuff.
Kari, did you have any other items in the?
The other thing I want to mention, you might have all heard this before, but I have had a sense that we need to work on our drought contingency plan.
Oh, yeah.
And what we can tell residents. So I'll work on that a bit. I plan to go to the Emergency Management Committee next week, talk to them about it, because I know they've been thinking about it as well, but it seems it's time.
I think I said this already, but I just thought James's entry in front porch forum was really helpful, and that, like, having it come from him and people recognizing that we have the emergency man, it's just a really positive thing. So to the extent he's, and the committee's willing to keep,
Take the lead on it, so that was it.
Can I just,
Any questions?
yeah, your second to last page, it has upcoming select board meetings.
Yes.
October 21st is not a Monday,
Oh, it's not the 21st.
That's a planning commission.
but it says upcoming select board meetings. That's
Oh,
why
that's
I-
optional,
Optional, okay.
because that's a planning commission.
And how about November 7th? That's a Tuesday.
Conservation Commission.
Yeah, it says budget conservation.
Okay,
no,
that's an error then.
It
Should be the Monday.
The 6th. Right, okay, all right. Understand it. I'll make sure I'm up on everything.
November, it's
November.
10th.
The date is wrong.
The 10th.
It's the 10th.
24th.
It's
Yes,
the 10th.
that's right.
The source of truth
This
is.
was the 7th, yes, okay.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
This is completely wrong. I put that in there on purpose.
I did see that.
See if you were waiting. See if we're waiting.
You just never know you're going to show up.
The memo.
I have enough trouble with my own calendar, I'm not letting you mess it.
But the 21st is the planning commission meeting with the CVRPC that.
Yeah, and you're invited.
About the,
Right.
Planning, future land use planning maps.
Maps, right.
That's new to me, and I'm curious, and so I'm planning on going to that.
Yeah.
I'm planning on going to that.
Yeah, I kind of got to go to that too. That's something else, but I wanted to do that.
Well, just don't talk about any select board stuff, so that we don't have to warn it at the joint meeting.
Oh, we can warn.
Or we could warn it.
Just add it
warn
to
as
the
a
warning,
joint
right?
meeting.
Isn't it already warned for the, because I see, because one of us will be there.
Right, wouldn't we make that and select board meeting if three were going to come?
Tomorrow.
Yeah.
I can't go.
All right.
Is that here?
I believe so.
Okay.
Meeting starts.
Actually, I might be able to make that.
Does anybody have any other comments or questions? 'Cause I'm gonna, we have the Highway Labor Department executive session, which was just tentative. It sounds like we're gonna get a proposal tomorrow. So we don't
Yeah,
really
that's
have
what they
anything to
said.
discuss. So we will table that item.
We will give you an update in 3 weeks.
Fantastic.
Thank you, everybody.
I hope you get a good night's sleep, Jordan.
It's impossible.